I got the notification yet.
Come on, guys.
Yep, we're live now.
Wait a minute.
Okay,
Are we ready?
we're live. Yeah.
I'd like to call the special meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Members present are Mr. Ivy, Ms. Earlston, Dr. Fellner. I'd like a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Ms. Earlston makes the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Mr. Ivy seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Since this is, we have one discussion item, and it is a 2021 budget review and discussion. So I am going to, we've all received copies. I'd like a motion to take note. There, I'm going to have Mr. Mayor, Mr. Baldner, or Ms. Colleen to guide us through this.
Okay, I'll start doing that. Julie, do you have this in what would be an ordinance form?
No, because the ordinance just says CD attached.
So
I have these worksheets that I could screen share.
sheets out there, but they have what will turn into the appropriation. They have them in the categories, correct? So like you have a salary and wages item, council, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes,
Miss-
they have it by category, Mayor. Yes.
That's what
I
I'm
also-
looking at right now.
I also sent it to you, or
Yeah.
Julie sent it to you, and then I sent you the expanded version with the notes.
Got it. Okay, I have, so what I think maybe a way to go through this, because you're looking at it largely for the first time, correct, council?
Correct.
All right.
Would
I'll
you-
try to hit as many variances, meaning proposals that are, excuse me, proposals that are different than the last couple of years. We'll see if that gets us, I don't want to bog down too much, okay?
Dr. Fellner, would you like me to screen share? Yes or no?
Yes, please. You're going to screen share the ones with the notes that the mayor is referring to?
The one that I just sent you guys.
If
Does anyone need that shared? Or
Is
they
there
all-
any audience?
Are you talking about sharing the email that we just received?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I personally don't because I have it on my phone. I'm reviewing it.
Okay. All right.
I'm
If
I'm
nobody
fine with
needs,
it.
okay,
If,
then, all right.
All right.
There.
So let's try it this way, and if it doesn't work, we can stop as we go through the general fund, okay? So I think the biggest in the area of the police department, the 101 police department, these are notes that I think after you review it, you'll see are some question areas. The increase in the payroll, salary and wages is almost exclusively due to the severance. We're going to be replacing the police chief mid-year. So at a point were to drill down there, you would see there's 105,000 for severance there. And that's what causes that number to go up. Make one other note, if you go back and look at the actuals in 18, 19, and then previous, you'll see that that's in the 300,000 range. What we have this year are only what I would describe as the management, part-time and part-time employees that are being paid out of this. The rest of the department, at least for this year, we're going to pay out of 103 and 104. So any questions about the severance? And
so I'm not seeing the severance line, Tom.
yeah, that if
I'm
you
not
get
either.
if you if you drill down, if you will, within salary and wages,
Oh,
you'll see under, it lists under longevity pay.
Mayor, they just have
Yeah,
it by
go ahead.
category, so they're not seeing
Yeah.
the severance line. So what you,
Right.
where he's referencing it, it is in the total of the salaries and wages. So he's referencing that that is included in that amount.
You,
okay.
do you want me to let Eunice be able to share that?
I just want to
Yeah.
move through it kind of quickly, but I think ultimately council's going to want to have the more broke down line by line, but
Well, so are we going to receive that a little bit later?
meaning as in before Tuesday night or
Uh,
later today?
Do you want me to send it to the committee members now?
Well,
Objection.
I mean, I would like to review it. Are we contemplating having another special finance committee meeting on Monday or a committee of the whole prior to the council meeting on Tuesday?
My answer to that is I wouldn't be surprised in a committee of the whole on Monday is probably the best or
So,
give an
I guess-
hour or Tuesday night's meeting. Those would be the two times.
So with that being said, and that idea being forwarded sometime this weekend, if we could get the copy to which you're referencing with the notes and the breakdowns, that would be, I think, very helpful.
I can send it now. Our theory and process for one thing was time
Certainly.
to get it out. And the other part is council's level of budgetary authority is just by category. It's not line by line. So
Okay,
this was how the state always used to present it.
that's
um,
fine.
But I can definitely, I can send it to you here. I'm working on getting it now.
But yeah, so we can, I mean, we can proceed with what we have, or and Eunice, you can send it out.
Right, and then you'll get it in the middle of the meeting, Doc, I bet.
Go ahead, then please proceed.
Okay, when you get this, we'll read the other areas within police that are worth noting is there's an increase in furniture and equipment. Understand that to be replacement of computers or the request for replacement of computers with the road officers.
And where does that fall under?
That is under capital outlay.
Okay,
26,000, and you'll get that number in a second. It's under capital outlay. That says 71. That's made up of 26 for computers essentially, and some vests,
Yeah.
and building number, and then a vehicle number. That's how you get to 71, the number you're looking at.
was there some grant money that went along with that? Just-
For vests,
No, for the, yeah, maybe for the vest and.
no, I don't think so.
okay.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes, and that's on the revenue side.
Okay, all right.
General
thank-
fund, Eunice,
I'm sorry, Mayor, say that again.
on the general fund.
You cut
The
out.
revenue balance is in the general fund.
Yes, yes,
All right,
yes.
thanks for correcting me.
Okay, thank you for that.
So that's really on the police, the big things to note, large severance pay, and that we've reduced the number of road patrol officers funded out of the general fund. Okay. Fire department, there really isn't much to add there. Once again, those two salaries are management people, non-union people in the fire department. I don't see or recall anything. There is probably the biggest variance in that department is, let me find it on the accounts. It's down quite a ways. It's under the capital improvement. And the chief has basically a 3-year plan. This to improve, I don't want to say modernize the living quarters. But I believe this is the repair of the kitchen and some other things at the fire station. That's the large item that would be under capital outlay. Okay. I really don't think there's a lot more in that fire department there's a lot in it, but there's nothing extraordinary. Move on to dispatchers. If there aren't any questions, it really is replicating the 2020 budget. There have been some positions that have been unfilled this year. So if you look at this in the expenditures for this year, it's under budget. But I think the plan is to try to fill that staff that was that position that had been vacant since April and has been filled with part-time and overtime. Try to fill that early this next year. Eunice, anything on that? Okay. Dispatchers, I don't know. There's a little bit of, it's pretty straightforward, y'all. Okay. 20, so we'll move ahead to 4020. Everybody got that one?
Hold on.
CDBG escrow. Okay, that would be appropriately, probably could be retitled depot. That is a request for 60,000 for depot improvements.
Where is that one? I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
It would be right underneath the end of the dispatcher budget.
It's 1014020, Tammy.
It's
Okay, thank you.
literally one line. I did send the other sheets. I don't know if you guys have gotten them yet, but I did send them a little bit ago.
Okay, so that is, it is, and when you get that other sheet, you'll see that that is on the low end of what has been spent at the depot the last handful of years. Without making this too long of a meeting, there is the potential that this could change a little bit, but I think this is what the city will invest in the second floor. And our hope is that the transit group, the SCAT group, will get a grant to rehabilitate, modernize the first floor, and they'll use that as their office. Okay. I'm gonna have some noise in the background here for a minute. I'll apologize in advance.
Mayor,
Yeah,
real quick, and this may be a discussion that we'll need to have in here in the office on Monday, but when you mentioned that depot fund, I did look at our expense report, and we might want to look and see if that should be budgeted into 206, which is labeled as depot fund.
Yeah.
And it's the community environment CDBG escrow capital outlay. So I'm not sure, but that might be a change we want to make. There's nothing in there right now.
yeah. What we had, I think, at Belinda's request, and then is that we had those two funds, and she said phase one out, and so that's how there's no active
Okay.
depot fund. And suggested that we put it in this one. It is a misnamed CDBG escrow.
Well, the 206 is named depot, so that's why we'll talk about it on Monday, and I can make one of them inactive then so we can phase it out.
Yep. Okay. Anything on the, okay, anything else on that? Council. It is pretty straightforward. I don't know if Carl or anyone has any comments on it. This assumes probably a 5% in the employee category. Okay, I can't think of much else that would be worth mentioning there. I don't mean it that way, but okay. If there are any questions, we'll go to Mayor's office. As usual in the contract services, The other technical service number, that's a large item, and it has provided some flexibility over the years. A large portion of that goes as the city's contribution to the partnership, the development partnership. So as you start to look through the more detailed, you might say, well, what's that? Historically, a large portion that doesn't go to the partnership went to engineering on projects that were either development related or sometimes park related. So if you looked at the expense history there, you'd probably see a fair amount of McKeever billings. That's also where the secretary of the design review committee or board is funded out of that. If Nikki has anything to add on that one, as far as what that expense is out to, but. Okay. That's city count, or excuse me, the mayor's office. Nikki's is literally wages and benefits. Auditor's office. Gail, take it away here, rest my voice.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this over to Eunice. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, there's nothing real big that we changed in the auditor's office budget. We are keeping some money in the financial services with a new auditor in office, just so that we have things in place in case they are needed for the LGS services from the state auditor's office. Beyond that, it's just the usual increases for benefits and wages. And there was nothing else really that changed. We were able to make some cuts, so.
I think wasn't there some equipment that got dialed back a little bit, or am I?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first run at it. There have been reductions. I'd want to mention that. Okay. Anything on the auditors? Moving along, treasurer. Once again, that's a real minimal budget. I'm not sure if Rod's on, but.
It is minimal, and that most of what's in there is kind of a just in case. We very rarely spend
Right.
anything other than the memberships and subscriptions. He's a member of the Ohio Treasurers Association, and that's how he gets his required training, is through that membership. So the rest of it is kind of like the other technical services, is kind of just in case with new equipment to be able to meet remotely via Zoom and stuff like that. We have just a little bit in there in case there's any issues.
Income tax. I'm not sure anybody, this is an easy budget to sort of poke holes in or complain about. I'm not sure. We did raise the amount for legal services. That's when Rita takes people to court. We pay for that. And the collection retainers up a little bit. I think that's just being safe. That's a % of our overall collections, correct, Eunice?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So this, when you look at revenue, and we're assuming it's going down, this might be a few thousand, literally no more than a few thousand over. But it's worth noting. That's that department. It's the Rita contract. And anything on that?
I'll just reinforce what the mayor said on the where they take them to court. We have no idea if they're going to do that or not. They did it last year and we didn't know it, and so we had to add money in. So we're just putting it there just in case.
And Gail may want to talk to them. We may want to address how that happens, and if do a little bit less of summoning people to court. I know that was for people who had been summoned, who work out of town and had tried to pay, that was particularly irritating. So it's not worth dwelling on, but that does tell you what that money goes to. Civil service, I don't even know what to say there other than it's 15,000 total budget that you really can't do without. And take a look at it, follow it up. The salaries the wages are set with the 3 commissioners. And they're paid, I believe, on a per meeting basis, or is it monthly, Eunice? Civil service commissioners.
I believe they are paid monthly.
Okay, so there you go. Anything on that? Is the law director on?
No.
Okay, I say that because I'm going to mention something that you may want to follow up on. There is in this budget, Thomas is recommending that we add back the part-time assistant law director position. So he can make the case with you about that. I would say that represents probably the only additional employee throughout the city. So we're treating employees the best we can. It adds one back in. And so if you have questions, I don't want to just allow him to answer, and then it'll be up to you whether or not this as requested is included in what you pass, or if a change is made. Okay?
Excuse me, you're talking about adding in what was that?
In the part-time pay item,
Michael Bear left in February of this year. So
I was thinking that we had.
yeah,
we
he was
did
in
have-
there. He was in there for the 2020 budget. He just hasn't been used past February.
Okay.
Other than
That's why I was a little confused, because I thought we did at some point have that before.
yeah, we did.
right?
Okay,
It was
thank
in
you.
this year's budget.
And I would want to say not to make, but at the bottom of this, all of this listing of proposed spending, you're going to find that revenues aren't going to match the spending request. So we can get to that when we get there, but we've looked at places to cut, and I see something that may be added back in. If that position is added, I believe that there were benefits associated with that. Can you remember, Julie?
No, there was no benefits. I mean, he
Okay,
got sick
so much
time, which is by
benefit.
code. Yeah.
If you add someone in there, okay?
So is that already budgeted in, or we're going to discuss it and then budget it in? Or is
No,
it-
it's in the budget, and it's your prerogative to
Gotcha.
say what stays in or not.
Gotcha.
So if somebody doesn't want to add that position on council, that somebody or somebody's would have to amend that out of there, the way it's been proposed, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next one that's the other side of this, since we got into it, there's legal services in there under contract services. I believe that's anticipating some legal services, really with the 2 hotel projects, the Liven litigation and defending our position there, and then perhaps some legal expenses in setting up the Central Hotel. But there's I guess a typical request of 25,000. And then the other one to mention would be what is a contract service, technical service. That would be the contract Thomas has with the county prosecutor for the lawyer, Rhonda Best is her name, who represents the city in Muni Court.
What is
So
the
that's
number?
that.
What is the number for that contract service that you were just talking about?
35,000.
It is
No,
the
actual line
101.
number?
Yeah,
I'm-
101, 70, 50.
It's part of 7050.
Okay, got it,
Unless if you got the broke down one, you would see
Yeah.
it maybe.
Okay,
The 62,850, correct?
Yeah,
That's-
35,000 of that is for the
No, but
county
we're-
contract.
Oh,
Yeah.
just to clarify off Tammy, we're looking at 101, 70, 50 for 62,850. That's the line we're looking at right now, correct?
Yeah, look at,
All right,
yeah.
Thank you.
52, 317 and 52, 303 are the individual line items, but yeah. All right, as law director, I hope he isn't tried to, I mean, that's council's prerogative, so I'm not gonna say anything. Other than that is the one addition, and I think maybe he'd argue that's bringing us back to where we were the last couple of years. Building department, it really is salary and benefits. Let me take a look at it under contract services, $11,000. You may see that. That is the mowing contract, like the person that does the nuisance mowing for us. So that's a little over half of the 21,000 total that the building inspector has to work with. Okay. The vehicles in there, I don't know, it could easily been cut. It's probably the only vehicle that made it through the process. And that's something that was asked for last year and put on hold and has reappeared. All right, we're almost done with the general fund, folks. But here are two of the most important categories, I guess, I would mention. And if you have all the detailed budget, it's the 70-80 number. Okay. So if you have the large number, it's 459,000. So you can see we have to filter that pretty carefully. All right. Let's see here. We're gonna, either Nikki or Eunice can help me with financial services. We'll kind of go through the 70-80s one by one and try to go through them quickly. What's financial services, the 30,000? Eunice, can you help me?
Yeah, I can run an audit trail on it here real quick too, to get
Alright.
some more specifics and drill into it, but
Well, that's,
Um,
yeah, well, that's being done. The next one, the other technical services is one worth noting and one worth council considering. It really represents $100,000 request, which is typical spending in that category, and $75,000 that would be added that the city could use to fund demolitions. So that number, I think, what started out requested, I think Gail, I don't know, it was 150
Yeah, so
the other day. Said, well, maybe we could do half of that. So I think that's where it's 75 was arrived at. So when you conclude like, well, we have to do some cutting here, or no, that's okay, or whatever, I want to note that is additional money for demolitions. We will
Mayor, if I could
couple
ask a question, please.
money with our own money and get some bigger projects done. And then this would be to try to address some of the worst projects. Yeah, Eric.
Hey, Mayor, sorry, just indulge me for a moment. We're still referring to, you're breaking down by line item right now, and
Yeah.
sorry about that, on the 459,000 under 7080, correct?
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I'm not sure what financial service has gone to, if Eunice has pulled that.
Yeah.
that,
yeah, we
expense.
We,
Go ahead.
that goes towards bank fees. We have some payroll account fees and stuff that comes out of there as well. I don't want to call it a catch-all, but any type of financial fees that basically affects all the general fund departments that is used for those expenses.
Got it. Okay, utilities would be, in this situation, that's gas bill largely.
Again, it's the same,
and
it's the same
telephone-
thing,
Telephone cable bills.
right? For those
Okay.
that hit the various general fund departments for the city hall building.
Right. The 40,000 is the aggregate cost of our liability insurance. I know this will take a second, but it's an improvement that's been made the last couple of years. We used to divide all these out in every little account. So every appropriation we just went through would have a small appropriation for utilities, for liability, et cetera, et cetera. Auditor's office a couple years ago made the decision to put all of those together under one item, and I think that was a good use. Or I don't know, good use isn't the right word. It was a good decision, but if you were to go back a number of years, you'd see it's gone up a lot. That's because all of those liabilities, insurance, all those utilities are paid there. Okay. The next big new item, and I think this is we have to have it, so it is a large item, but like I just said, we have to have it, would be to replace the servers at the city. And I'll either have Eunice and or Nikki answer any questions there. I have to plug in my phone or I'm gonna lose power, so.
What
One.
number are we on now?
We would
We're
be
still
on
on
7.
70, 80. We're
70.
Yeah, do you have the detailed spreadsheet?
I just pulled it up. I was
Okay.
looking at the other one, so,
So we're looking at 101, 70, 80, 52, 338, which is your maintenance and repair. I don't know a lot of details on it. Nikki and I spoke on it briefly. I don't know if Nikki wants to go into more detail, but our server here at City Hall has some age to it and is in need of being replaced. Nikki, if you want to add to that.
Yep, we have one that's at least 5 years out of warranty and running on very, very old software. So there's no support available for it. If it crashes, we're done. So ES is recommending that we replace 2 of the servers that are of similar age. We replaced one 2 years ago, and this is just trying to get to the next 2 on the list.
Okay, those are, there's something you didn't see. I think it was in the mayor's budget. Historically, we moved that out of that budget. And that would be maintenance and repair in City Hall. We used to have a couple of appropriation areas. And so what we've done this year is put all of that in this line item. So that would be the $25,000 number that we're budgeting. Okay. I don't know what else there are questions about there, but that's 70, 80. Okay.
Move on.
All right, any questions on that? Hold on here a second. Never a dull moment. Sorry for the background clutter. All right. Any questions on debt retirement? That would be the remaining amount. I don't want to say on the ambulance. And I can't tell you without notes what the other 235 is. Do you have that in front of you, Eunice?
Which one are you on, Mayor?
101,
Right.
80, 10, 52, 61.
52,610, the principal retirement?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one there is actually for urban paving and the fire truck debt. Those are both debt payments, and that's the principal. And then, of course, the line below, it's the interest for those.
okay. So that would, you can see that's larger, right? I mean, obviously, it was 38,000. It'll be 235 next year. That is the urban paving part of that. If you remember, we borrowed the money for the city's share of that urban paving project.
Yeah, the
Okay.
breakdown in that line is 195 for the paving and 40,000 for the truck.
You got it? There you go. And what we'll probably do is borrow that money again and begin to pay that down. I'm not sure if that's balanced that way on the borrowing on the revenue side, Eunice. You may want to make a note
Got
on
it.
that.
I hate to interrupt at this point, but we do have a question on Facebook from Justin Humberger that says, has the city ever looked into leasing server resources instead of purchasing them and constantly having to upgrade and maintain?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think the short answer is no, we did not look at that when we, but I would say, Justin, we haven't committed to that. What we're doing here is funding the replacement. It's a good suggestion to look to see if that is a less expensive, more flexible way. Okay.
Do we generally take audience questions during the budget workshop? I'm not opposed to it, but maybe we could hold those off until we finish.
Yeah, that could be. I just wasn't, because we were close to that item. That's why.
I
Okay,
understand.
I'll hold them.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We're almost done with the general fund, folks. So
Okay.
you see that is the interest. So that's the principal number, largely urban paving, and then the interest that we'll pay on that money are those next items. One of the things that is important to look at and but is often overlooked is the next category, the transfers. Okay. The first transfer there is the transfer to the street fund. That would be to pay all of the remaining expenses on the 598 widening. And then once we get to the street fund, you'll see there's a number of other expenses. One of the best ways to see what all of the money that is expensed in 201, where it comes from, is to look at the revenue report for 201, one of the large sources of income. In fact, there are two sources really, gas tax and license plate fees, and this transfer. It's large this year because we've decided to present the budget with using cash reserves as the way to fund the remaining Portland Way costs, the 598 costs. So as you look at this and think about all of the trade-offs, one of the trade-offs in what's presented is not to borrow more money, but to go ahead and pay cash when ODOT asks us to escrow our share of the money, probably April or May of next year. So that's the first one, the 2.71. It's a hell of a big number. I understand that. Okay. The next couple, the transfers to the pension funds, that is how we instead of going to PERS like you see in a lot of the other retirement lines in the various departments, the police and fire pay right to this pension fund. And April, I think, is the one who educated me on that this week. So that's the 280 and the 305. And that's a function of payroll. So it's an estimate. You can see there's a lot of zeros, but I think April's done a good job of estimating what the requested transfer will be. Transfer to the airport fund. I'm not much help on that. I'll hand that off to Nikki. I know one of the reasons it's a large number this year is we have to fund our small local share of $1 million runway resurfacing project. So, Nikki, anything else on that 264 number for airport?
Yeah, we also have to front the $150,000 in engineering. We'll be reimbursed for that, but we have to front that as well.
So that and the rest of I think the operating loss, the operating subsidy represents that transfer, okay? And then the health subsidy, that is a very complicated financing situation, and I feel that's a sufficient number, and I hope they feel the same way. Eunice, you want to comment on that?
That they present us with their budget that is approved by the board. We take their revenue and expenditures, and the difference is what we give them. It will be considered a grant per the state auditor's recommendation. So I just kind of want everybody to get used to the health grant instead of the subsidy. So on the detailed sheet, you'll see that I have both listed there, but that is how that's calculated. But they submit their budget to us. We do not calculate that for them.
Any questions on that one? The next one, before you get to the total, which leads to the grand total, is $75,000 to the Port Authority. That was their request. There was another committee. I think actually the three members of the current finance committee were on the development committee when they made that request. Aren't you three on economic development?
Correct.
Yeah, there you go. So it's that number from a couple, a meeting or so ago.
Right.
And you can see that almost 2.5 million is a significant total of the 6 million, a little over 6 million of the total general fund. So without making that a test question, I think when you look at some areas that you hadn't taken into account how we could be spending that much money, I have learned that 7080 and 9001, those codes, there's a lot of money in there, and it explains a lot of those, gives you answers to a lot of those questions. All right. Yeah.
All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's what I have on the general fund. Any questions? Anything? I think if you're numb now, it'll probably get worse, but we'll try to move along maybe a little faster. I did want to go into detail in the general fund because the expense requests exceed the revenue. And you want to have a good feel. We will need to collectively decide how much of an erosion in the cash fund balance in 101 we can endure. And maybe that's the next part of the discussion, but expenses are up and revenues look to be off based on how we estimated the whole budget. So, all right. Any questions? I have really nothing to say about 102. Anything we should know about that, Eunice? You
No,
can
I
take-
think it's pretty straightforward.
Nikki, you got anything on that one?
I don't have anything.
Trainings, it's hard to train under these circumstances. You got so many illnesses. We'll probably continue to try to get our lieutenants trained up. My expectation is that at least one of those lieutenants will apply for the chief job, and without digressing, that it's the way the civil service process works. It's pretty likely that the competition will be among existing lieutenants within the department. So, all right. Speaking of police and fire, at least for this year, and this took a lot of work by a bunch of people. I think April was on the point on this one, but in what I'd say about 103 in both police and in the fire department is that we put all of the staff into either 103 or 104 in those two departments. So as you look through and you say, well, the payrolls have gone up in 103, 1010. Yep, that's right. And that's on purpose. That there's probably another employee added there. Probably a good time to mention the hospitalization. The logic on all of those is to assume the highest hospitalization cost for budgeting estimating purposes. We'll have somebody who is a single coverage in 2019, and they'll go out and get married. All of a sudden we have a family plus one, or they'll marry a family and they'll bring dependent children onto the plan. So when you look at hospitalization, that is higher than probably we spent this year, but it represents that highest maximum amount.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor,
Yeah.
if I may, just to clarify, we don't calculate the highest for all employees. Once open enrollment was closed this year, we did base the budget figures on the selections the employees made. But if someone is being replaced, such as the chief, for example, when we calculate that new employee coming in, we do use the highest scenario to make sure that we have enough money in there for the new person coming in.
Good. It's not, we got a lot of work to do, but the auditor's office made those changes. We've been working on versions of this. So these numbers, thanks for clarifying
I'm
that.
on
These
mute, so go ahead.
post-open enrollment numbers. So they are likely to stay pretty close to that number, I guess. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, and there is just a slight cushion in there in case somebody does have a baby for the first time and go from employee spouse to family or something like that. But we keep that fairly minimal and try and give it the best educated guess that we can.
Right. Okay, and then in 104, a very similar scenario. We put as many of the rank and file, or let's say the road patrol or the paramedic / firefighters, all of that staff payroll is now in 103 and 104. It has an impact on the fund balance, and whether or not we can replicate that as how the budget's put together in 2022, that remains to be seen. But this formula works this year. Really, all I have. It's payroll and benefits for those two departments. Again, that's those two pieces of voted income tax. The 115 is the OMB enforcement. And that's for OT for like targeted enforcement efforts. Fair enough. I'll stop on 103, 104. I don't want to overwhelm folks. It is an important change, and it will help our 101 deficit, but it will begin to erode the surplus that we've enjoyed in 103 and 104 over the last, gosh, I want to say 4 or 5 years. Okay. So if we all drop dead, somebody is going to have to put that down there that you can't keep doing this in 103 and 104. Like I said, 115, not much. All right, on to the street fund. Again, the salary estimates are lower. That's based a little bit on history, and it's a mixed blessing. It's lower here, but you'll see the same individual employees. If you'll, I don't mean this in a mean way, but costing us more in areas like water maintenance, in the park personnel, in those two areas in particular. So it's the rate of increase in streets, not as great, but maybe take a look at that. There is, you can see, one severance pay there. And one of the things we'll make a decision on once that person leaves is at what pace we replace some of these folks. We'll have money in the budget, so we don't have to wait till that 17,000 severance is spent. But we're in a real tight revenue picture, and we may hold off on hiring that retirement and some others that we could get into as we go through it. But to see just how the revenue holds up, or if it's worse than forecast. Like, yeah. Really not a whole lot else in the other technical services number. Okay, in 101, 6020, 52317, that number, which has been in the hundreds of thousands in past years, is behind us. A lot of that was engineering and real estate acquisition for the big project. The rest of this till we get to capital outlay is, I think it's sufficient, but it's not, we're not going to have a lot of extra resources.
What did you say you're having?
Okay.
Smoked sausage.
Oh, okay.
All right. And I just, when you get to supplies, material and supplies, that'd be 201, 60, 20, and operating supplies, road salt, those items. I think there's sufficient, but there's really not much. There's not much extra in there. I'm trying to, okay, and the next capital outlay, which is that 60-20 land and improvements, etc. That one is taken a beating before we brought it to council. The equipment has been stripped out. There's just a little money in there for furniture and equipment. I'm not sure if Nikki denominates that, but we took 2 or 3 pieces of equipment and we reduced the repair of the sign shop roof by about 25%. Okay. And then of course the big number that requires that large transfer for the most part that we talked about before, that 1.2 million, is the $1,025,000 in infrastructure. And most of that will go to the Portland Way project with some, the balance going to local streets. Okay, I know that'll quiet the crowd. All right. Any questions there? I'm sure there are a lot, but that's the first run through. Eunice, you can, if I'll move ahead and then maybe take a breath here. We're almost out of 201. The principal, the debt service number, that is largely Keller Hall Extension and Valero. Question mark, correct? Eunice, is that what you have?
Or the debt, the
Yeah,
principal on the debt
201,
service?
80, 10.
No, I
10.
don't think that's what it is. Hold on, let me pull up my other spreadsheet. Sorry. So for 201, that is showing Brant Road.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah.
That means Keller Drive Extension and the
Oh, sorry.
access. That's all right. I hate to be wrong, and I'd be honest with you, that is an expense that's yet to produce the kind of development that a lot of us had hoped for. We still have to pay that cost, so that's what that number is. Okay, I think just not as an explanation, when we start doing the construction on 598, that's probably when that value of the Keller Road extension or Keller Drive extension will come in handy, because people trying to get to the west side of town will come down, go south, pull off at Valero, turn, go up to Keller, and then Brant Road and miss the construction zone. So anyway, enough on that. Okay. $202, if we're ready. That is the only expenditures we'll have this year will be funded by the reissuance of notes and oh gosh, $45,000 or $50,000 worth of cash. So that the expenditure of $183,090 for next year is that's not credit card balance, but this is for expenses made out of that fund in previous years. So again, I think if Eunice, you probably have that what the debt service. I know you, Nikki and I went through that earlier today.
Yes, for the 202, it is
Yeah.
from the 2018 Portland Way North and the Portland Way South project from 17.
Yeah. And for people who are going to be around for a while, I don't know the way things are going, but that Portland Way South is a I believe zero interest and real long-term public works loan on that. So we're going to have to go ahead and borrow that amount, and that when you detail the revenue report, you'll see that the 202 revenue is supports that spending because we plan to reissue debt. Yeah, proposing plan, I don't know. Okay. This gets to the point where like it gets a little numbing, and that's why Doc Fellner's question of 45 minutes or an hour ago is valid. You're like, what do we do Monday? How do we get our questions answered? So anyways, 203. All we have there is the $5 license plate tag. And what we expect to do there is, if things go based on history, we'll have about $200,000 there.
Mayor,
So-
they don't
go-
see anything in that because there are no expenses in 203, so that's just on the revenue side.
Yeah. Oh, you're right about that. I'm looking at 2020. My bad. That is, well, imagine trying to keep a sense of humor, about 220,000 as expenses. That did get, I think, I don't know, Eunice found that this morning and it didn't get added in. The revenue is in on the revenue budget, but there's no spending. And I don't think just having 150 or so thousand for non-Portland Way paving is going to be that citizens expect and deserve more than that. So I'm not sure the 350-ish will be enough, but it'll be able to take care of some of the worst streets. All right, that's what I got there. Okay. That gets us to parks. Everybody ready? Anybody have a question? See, I'm used to just talking to myself, so I could go on. I don't even, is anyone, or Julie, is anyone there? No.
It doesn't appear anyone's nodded off yet.
All right, let's keep going then.
I'm about to.
Let's bang on the door.
Swimming pool, I think the biggest items there that I would look at, we made some more cuts today. You got two big contracts in swimming pool. That other technical services, that's the YMCA for the pool and the splash grounds. We think that it'll be in no more than 35,000 next year. And that, as we know from past years, that really is a function of how many hours and days they're open. I think having $10,000 maintenance and repair, I think is a wise request. We think we've taken care of some things, but we found last year, if something goes wrong, you really need the spending authority in place. So that's all really I have to add on that. The number that is infrastructure, 204-3010, 52-505. That was 65 earlier today, and we've cut that back to 20. It's 65. It has a range of things. The folks that are in charge believe that I'm going to say bathhouse. I'm not sure if that dates me too much, but the facility where the bathrooms are and the entrance, the locker room, that building is in need of a roof, and then there's some other repairs. We didn't want to leave it blank, but we're not sure. What we hope is that the 20,000 combined with some freeze funds will keep that the pool facility in the kind of shape it needs to be. All right, here's one that we don't know if it will be that much. As I move along to salaries, but it's at 128 now. With all of these line items, it's not worth, debating over every one. We've been a little bit heavy in the parks because of some of the construction work that supported some of our projects. I'd be real surprised if we used all of that 128, but you look pretty stupid in November and December if you don't have enough money. So that's what I have to add there. You can see there's some severance money there. You remember the one that we had in the street department? I think it was 17 grand roughly. this is the other half of the severance for that individual, that 11,385. You know, it's something that we owe, but it's not something that you expected when you sat down with the first cut of the budget. I really don't see a lot then elsewhere in the parks. Going down to capital improvements, we have put nothing in there for next year. So the improvements that get done to land, buildings, equipment are all going to be freeze projects. And with that, those adjustments, we believe that we've got the 204 in, so that there's enough cash to be able to carry off this. Nikki, do you have anything on that? You made a lot of those cuts. That's not meant to throw you under a bus, but
No, I mean, we decided to just take it all to apply for freeze funds for all of the projects we wanted to do so we could get the sucker to balance.
okay, we didn't want to, if the general fund was revenue over expenses, we probably would have made a request for a transfer. But given its condition of having expenses exceed revenue because of the forecast, mostly because the forecast on revenue, we're gonna take a bearish forecast. That's really how 204 got clobbered. You might as well stay on, Nikki, on the airport. The airport grants 205. Please
Okay.
explain that if you can.
We have two projects next year. One of them is the runway replacement and it comes in at about $1 million. The other one is an advanced warning system. The first one is I think it's the typical 95.55. So our portion's about $40,000. We are going to be able to use the $30,000 in CARES money that we got this year to cover our portion of the project. So, all in all, we're going to be out, city's going to be maybe $20,000 for $1 million project. So I think, we did really well there. The other one, the warning system is 100% ODOT covered.
Okay. There you go. In less than 2 minutes, she spent $1 million. Not funny. Everybody's numbed out. Okay, I'll stop.
Crickets.
Going to 207, that is equipment, that is fire department. Go ahead, Nikki, on that. I'm drawing a blank. 45,000.
Need some help.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let me grab my notes on that one.
So 11,000 of that is some from the FEMA grant that was not finished up this year. Right, Nikki? And then I think there's 35,000 for the FEMA grant.
Yes, that sounds right. Yes.
Okay.
So that's that. I'm sure there are a lot of questions there. I believe, let me get this. The fire donation, I think that is just an estimating. Anything on that, Eunice or Nikki?
Yeah, that's just an estimate, and
Right.
you'll see when we look at the finals page that there is a balance in there. So some of that is, I guess I want to say eroded away, but they have a balance in there, and that's just donations that are specific to them.
Okay. Cheshire, I don't want to say much other than I think we're getting near the end of the line. I think we're getting near. I'm sure the people who are paying those assessments are more glad to get to that. I don't know.
Did you
But
mean to skip health?
What? Pardon me?
Did you mean to skip health? 230?
No, I didn't. It was Freudian. I don't believe in the guy. Sort of. No, I think health is just the big it's just one big chunk of money we send, isn't it, on 230?
Yes,
ahead.
and again, it's a budget that they set by their board and that they submit to us. We really don't have any say in the cuts or anything unless you guys don't approve the grant to them, then they would have to look to make cuts, but we don't have any say or anything over it when the board approves it.
Okay. I still don't, I probably don't even have, maybe the reason I skipped it is because it's left out, but I don't know. So that really Cheshire is, we're taking care of commitments that were made the last handful of years.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
the health? So Eunice, is this pretty much just when you do this budget under health, is it pretty much just what is given to you and you put it in based on?
Correct.
Correct?
They do a very detailed breakdown of what they need for vaccines. They calculate their own payroll, their own benefits. And then kind of like I said, when we talked about the transfers in the general fund, I take the total expenses that they submitted minus the revenues that they've submitted, and that equals the grant subsidy that we need to give them from the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Any other questions? This isn't like the last chance. This is probably the introduction. As I get back on point here, I think I would very sincerely, I have this material at home. That's where I'm at. And so as you have questions, please call. We still have a lot of material to cover, but I think there's going to be I wish I had thought of that moment for each of you, and you really ought to call so we can get it answered. So Monday night, or whenever we get together with the rest of the council, we don't have so many questions that we can't move through. All right, having said that, the next thing I have in front of me is 405. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that really represents the unspent money. If you may recall, the Freeze Foundation sent us a check in the neighborhood of $435,000, I believe. Maybe it was a little more. And because of the COVID, certain things we were going to build, we didn't, because we wouldn't have been able to open them. And so a number of those projects didn't happen. I know one that I don't even know where it sets today, but about a week or 10 days ago, the school came in looking for the money. It looks like they're getting ready to do lights on the football field. So that's a project that money was reserved for, and it hadn't been requested.
That check is out the door.
It's out the door. So
That check's already done and out the door.
Yeah, it's probably in the actual spent amount. So, okay, that's good to know. Anyway, so what we have is for this a budget, we'll have the benefit of 2 years. We've identified projects for last year's money, and I think without precluding, other outside city requests for freeze funds from nonprofits and such, I think we have plenty of requests to be taken care of this year. I just thought of another one that we didn't fund that we wanted to last year, were nets or fences, higher fences at Pico Park. I mean, the amount of activity out there was negligible. We didn't have as much use there, so we didn't move ahead on that. So anyway, stop talking freeze and move on. Any questions about that? Takeaway is, I think it's spoken for, both from approved projects last year and what I can see is requests coming from the city and others. Port Authority, I guess I'm looking at 409. And that's the same, if you remember the transfer item on the general fund from 15, 20 minutes ago, that's that same 75,000 appropriated for that group. Okay. All right, where are we at? Okay, 601.
I need to ask a question if I could, please.
Please, Aaron.
Confused. The 75,000 that we're allocating for the Port Authority is under transportation street improvement. I'm just confused by that.
Yeah, I don't even, there's so much of this nomenclature, fund naming that as a project, maybe for the council to work with the auditor is to rename some of those. I can't tell you why it ended up there, maybe. But yeah, it probably should be named something other than transportation street improvement. Got a better answer there, Eunice? I don't.
If memory serves me correct, and Mayor, I don't know if this will help and clarify anything for you, but I think that last year when we started that, there really wasn't another fund, and to change it, or I should say this year, and to change it a fund name in the middle of the year, we generally don't do that. And there's certain steps that we have to go through if we create a new one or rename it. So that may change at the first, I don't know. But right now, that's how it stands.
That same bucket that has the other account that we noticed was kind of misnamed. What earlier?
The depot.
The depot fund.
CDBG
yes.
depot.
All right. Anything else there? All right. I would say on water, even with the increases, the 20% increase, this is the spending request that you're looking at is a lot higher than the revenue we have coming in this year. And so there'll be a further erosion of the water fund balance, even with the rates going up. Okay. So I'm not quite sure where to start. Nikki, do you have anything you want to add in?
Not in particular, Tom. It's like you said, I mean, this is a much larger ask than in the past. So we've trimmed and trimmed and trimmed, and we're still at this point. So yeah, that's about all I have to add.
So take a look at this. I'm sure, I mean, honestly, I expect to get calls about this. This can't possibly be what we're doing, but this is the, so I really don't, I'm not sure what else to say about water.
Look, if I may, we are looking at some alternative funding sources. There are some 0% loans or, other options that we're exploring, but haven't got far enough along with those yet.
We've got just a couple of things, and then I don't know what to do, Doc Fellner, on this one. I wish I had a better answer, but there is a retirement in there. And so while that doesn't, that 32,000 doesn't explain the expense over revenue, that's something worth noting. to take a look at it and review it here as we go. And, it's just not acceptable at this
May I
point.
ask a question, Mayor?
Like where it's, yeah, sure, Aaron.
601-5031, capital outlay for $826,000 under water filtration. What are those capital improvements that we're looking at?
Yeah, that's and it's really 742,000 in infrastructure, some in equipment. I think Nikki is the best person on that. And I don't think we're going to be able to fund all of that until we fix this revenue source issue. We're gonna have to come up with an additional source of revenue. And I'm not in favor of raising rates any more than we already did, but Nikki, I think you've got a best detail on the 742 and then the 79,000.
Yep, this 742 includes an estimate. We've met with an engineer. They gave us a very broad estimate, so I kind of went to the middle ground to repair one of the clarifiers. So these things are 25 years old and they're getting pitted. Relining them is almost as expensive as replacing. So it's a $500,000 middle of the road estimate from them. Various other upgrades, new pumps at Amon's, phase 2 of the SCADA system so it can be monitored at all times rather than just when someone is walking past it in the plant every hour. So we'll know sooner if something goes offline. One of the chemical feeders needs repaired. So, and also put in there is the big question mark of what ODNR and EPA will be requiring of us next year. For me, that's the real wild card. We're waiting to get some results on a couple of geotechnical